Also, I am donning my glasses. I don't think I've ever filmed a video with my glasses. I don't know if that does anything for anyone, but my contacts were just not cooperating with me, so glasses it is. So, yes, today we are doing another ASMR true crime. I asked you guys in a poll a few weeks ago what case you would like to see me cover next, and this one won resoundingly. And it is the case of Ellen Greenberg. This is a case that is deeply frustrating, deeply sad, and just a total miscarriage of justice across the board. Now, this is not going to be the most comprehensive, in-depth case summary of what happened, but I'm going to try and just give a good synopsis. But I highly recommend doing independent research, and especially looking into her parents, Ellen's parents, Josh and Sandy Greenberg. They have GoFundMes because they have been working for almost 15 years trying to get justice for their daughter. So, yeah, I'm going to leave links in the description below. And Nancy Grace, I know she's controversial, but has done a lot of really great work on this case. So, highly recommend looking into that as well. But here is a little ASMR rendition of this deeply tragic and deeply upsetting case. Ellen Ray Greenberg was born to Josh and Sandy Greenberg on June 23rd, 1983. Sandy was a dental hygienist and Josh was a periodontist. I'm honestly not super sure what that is. If anyone knows and wants to tell me, let me know in the description or in the comments below. Ellen was an only child and was born in New York City, and it seems that the family lived in New York until 1994 when they moved back to Sandy's hometown of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And after this move, Ellen began attending the Susquehanna Township schools in Pennsylvania. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm so sorry. There's a lot of really difficult names in this case. So she was, like I said, an only child, so she was adored by her parents. She was their pride and joy. And yeah, she was very close with them, and especially, I think both of them, but especially from what I've read, her mom was like her best friend. She graduated high school in 2001 or 2002. It was not clear online, but based on her age, I'm gonna guess it was one of those 2 years. And went on to attend Penn State University in State College, Pennsylvania, where she majored in communications and later went on to earn her teaching credentials from both Temple University and Chestnut Hill College. Her original plan was she wanted to become a speech language pathologist, but I guess after some time she realized that just wasn't for her. So she went on to get her teaching credentials and wanted to become an early childhood education teacher. And during this time, at the age of 23 or 24, she went on a blind date that a friend had set up for her with a man named Sam Goldberg. And they immediately hit it off. They had instant chemistry. Sam was a 25-year-old television producer in the area, and at this time, Ellen was working as a first grade teacher in Geneva Park Academy. They dated for 3 years before Sam proposed on June 27th, 2010, in California while they were on a trip, and he proposed on the beach, and she of course accepted, and they had planned to have their wedding in August also around this time, they moved into the 6th floor of an apartment building in Philadelphia. And everything seemed to be very happy and life seemed to be good. Ellen was, a bride-to-be. She was a teacher, and she seemed to have a really great family life, really great friends. And yeah, everything seemed to be going well for her, but in the winter of 2010, her parents began to notice a change in her behavior. She just appeared to be much more reclusive and stressed and full of anxiety, while normally she was super cheerful and collected, very had her emotions all together. But at this point, she was just very worked up about a lot of things. She had told her mom that it was because of just her job was really stressing her out, but also the wedding, planning a wedding. I mean, that is an incredibly stressful thing. So just two of those things combined really messed with her and made things really difficult, and she just couldn't really be her normal cheery self. And even at one point in December of 2010, she had texted her mom saying that she wanted to quit her job and move back home with them. And she said, and I quote, "I want to leave this place. Get me out." So of course that is deeply concerning to her parents. I'm not entirely sure of what their response was to that. It doesn't say. But yeah, it seemed to be in a very unhappy place, both with her career and possibly with her relationship with Sam. Now, shortly thereafter this message to her mom, she said Ellen had asked a cousin if she could move in with them and their family for the time being. And in response to this, the cousin asked if Sam, Ellen's fiance, would be joining, and Ellen never responded to the cousin after that point. So it definitely seems to an outsider that they had problems in their relationship, and that Ellen was looking to get out of that situation. But that is just pure speculation. But just based on what I can collect from the information that is given, that seems to be the case. Now, after many weeks of what appeared to be a lot of mental distress, Ellen did go to see a psychiatrist who prescribed her Klonopin and Ambien. The Klonopin was to be used for her anxiety attacks and panic attacks and just anything related to her anxiety that she was having. And the Ambien was to help with her insomnia. She reported that the medications were making her feel better and they were effective. So I think her family kind of took a breather and was feeling better about her condition. Now everything kind of starts to come down to a very specific time frame. There is a timeline that I'm going to be referencing. I'm not 100% sure if it is perfect, piece by piece, but it is dedicated to her case, and I'm just going to kind of be reading based on that timeline because there's direct quotes. On January 10th, 2011, Ellen researched ways for a quick passing. She opened up an article about euthanasia and browsed a website about painless suicide. On January 12th, 2011, Ellen saw her psychiatrist, and everything kind of seemed to be falling apart. She, as per the notes for the psychiatrist, she said that Ellen said her job sucks, she's anxious and not sleeping, and wants to have things in her control. January 17th, 2011, she saw her psychiatrist again, and the notes from the visit state that she wants to quit, but her mom and her fiance don't want her to. Wants to quit her job is what I'm assuming. She can get out of her contract with 2 weeks notice when she starts to work on something, but she is not suicidal as per the January 17th visit. went to the psychiatrist again 2 days later. Feels a lot better. And yeah, she's just like, she says she feels 75% better, agrees she should just get through till June. Which I'm assuming is referencing when her job like goes, for summer break, when, kids go on summer break. On January 22nd, 2011, Ellen sent out her save the date cards for her wedding, and the date was set for August 13th, 2011 at the Hotel Hershey in Hershey, Pennsylvania. She also went bridesmaid dress shopping with a close friend that same day, and while bridesmaid dress shopping, she began crying and told her friend, "I'm so sorry, I know I'm not myself, but I'll get it together." Okay, now this is the date of the incident, so everything is just going to be in like a very quick and like consecutive succession of when things happened. Okay, so January 26th, 2011, 7 a.m., Ellen spoke to her mother. 12 p.m., Ellen received a text from a friend, "Yeah, you are getting out early," and replied with, "Thank goodness." At 1:15 p.m., Ellen left her job as schools closed early due to severe weather. At 1:26, she stopped for gas and filled up her tank completely. 2:30 p.m., she left a call at a local restaurant. At 2:33 p.m., she called someone that lasted about 30 seconds. While in her apartment, she entered grades remotely for her students. At 3:47 p.m., Ellen sends her final text. At 4:45 p.m., Sam left the couple's home around 4:45 and is captured by surveillance, him entering the on-site gym at the apartment complex. At 4:46 p.m., Ellen used her laptop. At 4:30 p.m., Sam exits the gym on the first floor of the Venice Lofts apartments, as per surveillance video. When he returned to the apartment, he couldn't enter the door because the door had a hotel room latch engaged from the inside. Despite using his key and banging on the door, Ellen did not respond or unlock it. From 5:30 p.m. until 5:42 p.m., Sam calls Ellen and sends her texts. 5:54 p.m., Sam emailed and texted Ellen. The following messages were some of what Sam had sent to Ellen. "Hello. Open the door. What are you doing? I'm getting pissed. Hello. You better have an excuse. What the F? You have no idea." Sam then went down to the lobby and asked a security guard to help break the lock. He refused and told Sam it was against the policy. At 5:44 p.m., neighbors heard Sam call Ellen's name several times. At an unknown time, he called Camion Schwartzman to let him know he was locked out of his apartment and that Ellen was not responding to repeated telephone calls and text messages to let him in. At 6 p.m., Sam went downstairs in the lobby requesting help from the doorman. The doorman told him it was against the policy to break down doors, but he can call Ellen. 6:07 p.m., Ellen gets 2 calls from the loft of the Venice Lofts, the apartment complex, but no one answers. 6:10, Ellen gets another call from Venice Lofts, but no one answers. 6:23, Sam is seen entering the elevator via surveillance footage. 6:26, Sam answers a phone call from his uncle and cousin. His cousin and uncle instructed him to call 911. 6:28 p.m., Sam is seen going on video upstairs. 6:30 p.m., Sam went back upstairs and tried to force his way in. He stayed on the phone with Camion and James during this time. At 6:31 p.m., just inside the door, Sam found Ellen slumped on the floor in the kitchen, leaning against the cabinets. James and Camion heard Sam administer CPR. He lifted her slouched head in order to perform the CPR, and at that moment discovered a knife lodged in her chest. The operator then instructed him to stop administering CPR and that the paramedics were on the way. 6:36 p.m. EMS arrives, and they found Ellen in a semi-upright position between two corner cabinets. She had been discovered seated on the kitchen floor inside her locked apartment with a serrated knife plunged 4 inches into her chest. A strainer filled with blueberries and orange berry, freshly sliced, rested on the counter. 2 clean knives were in the sink, and 20 stab wounds, with 10 alone to the back and neck, covered her body. At 6:42 p.m., Ellen was pronounced deceased. At 7:30 p.m., James and Kemian Schwartzman arrived at the Venice Lofts apartments after receiving multiple calls from Sam Goldberg. At 7:31 p.m., Officer Jamie Budd arrived and requested the medical examiner. And at 8:27 p.m., detective arrived at the scene. Okay, and as per the photographs on the of Ellen, she was found on the floor, like they've said, in between 2 cabinets, resting on her buttocks and lower back. Her arms were extended parallel to her upper body. A white towel. Sorry, the wording in like this is kind of weird. Her legs were and feet. Her legs are extended with her feet outward. She is wearing a pair of light tan UGG boots, gray sweatpants tucked into the boots, a dark gray zip-up sweatshirt, and a dark gray t-shirt underneath the sweatshirt. Blood stains are noted on the sweatshirt, sweatpants, boots, hands, and face. They're also on the floor and cabinets adjacent to her. 2 large knives were in the sink, and she had a scrunchie. A pair of eyeglasses were noted on the floor to her right hand, and a scrunchie type elastic tie was noted on the right wrist. So that was kind of like a synopsis. I know it wasn't perfect. I was using information from a website that had just created a timeline of this case, but I thought it gave a good outlook of the time things happened during that day. I mentioned many times Kemian and James Schwartzman. James Schwartzman is a very high-profile prosecutor, but also a judge in Philadelphia, I believe, at the time. If not at the time, then definitely now. And Kemian is Sam's cousin. So those were the people he was talking to. So those are the ones who he was on the phone with when he discovered Ellen. And because James has a very extensive legal history, and was, I'm guessing just someone that Sam felt comfortable talking to about something that is potentially this serious. I don't know, I can't really wrap my mind around it, but obviously I wasn't there, and I can't imagine what that was like, but yeah, he immediately went to talking to James and Kemian before calling 911. And maybe he didn't feel like there was a need to call 911. I'm not 100% sure. But that is what he did. So, yeah, Sam was questioned by police that night, but they released him that evening. So he was free to go. No, not under any suspicion or anything. So, what went wrong? Basically, it was a total miscarriage of justice, in my opinion. They completely tampered with the scene, and by they I mean law enforcement, and I guess tampered's not the right word, but it was not locked down. It was not, I can't remember the exact word, but it was not concealed. Like, the scene was not taken care of. Usually when you are dealing with a crime that is under maybe suspicious circumstances, or even non-suspicious circumstances, but it involves a death, the scene is going to be like maintained and supposed to be there are gonna get out. They're gonna wear gloves. They're gonna, handle things in a very specific manner. Not gonna move anything. Not gonna, before anyone arrives who needs to take pictures or medical examiners or whatever. It's kind of like why, when you're on, like, if you've ever heard 911 calls where people are like, oh, I found the gun, or I found whatever, the weapon, and the 911 operator is like, do not touch that, like, leave it there, because there could be fingerprints, there could be blood left over from the perpetrator, there could be a lot of things, so it's so crucial not to ruin the scene by doing those things. So this was completely, everything that could have been done wrong, in my opinion, was done wrong. The scene was cleaned up pretty much immediately thereafter. No fingerprints or DNA testing was done on the knife. Like, nothing was taken for DNA. And personal items such as, I believe, Ellen's laptop and other various, things that you could think of were taken away immediately. So it was just like that. Just like that. The scene was already clean. There was no time for any DNA to be extracted from the scene. In the case that this was something that happened, like someone had attacked Ellen, it would make it very hard to find that out now. Okay, so here we get to the part that I think most people get infuriated by, and rightfully so. So Dr. Marlon Osborne was the person who conducted the autopsy of Ellen, and based on the scene, there was no signs of a break-in, no disturbances, and like I said, Ellen died by 20 stab wounds, 10 of which were to the neck and the back. Now, Dr. Osborne initially ruled the death as a homicide on the number of prominent wounds, especially, the ones that were to her head and to her back. But after a private meeting with police in March, April of 2011, this was reversed to suicide. I just want to sit with that for a second. This woman was stabbed 20 times, 10 of which were to her back and her neck, the back of her neck. And it was deemed a suicide. No, I'm sorry, there's just no way. There's just no way. It doesn't make any sense to me personally. I am not a forensic psychologist, or not forensic, but I'm not a crime scene investigator. I'm not a medical examiner. I'm nothing like that. But just based off of pure common sense, it seems that doesn't make any sense to me. Just say. And I'm also very disturbed by this private meeting, which from my research I learned was from subpoenaing, they had gotten a sworn statement from Dr. Osborne under oath during one of the cases where Ellen's parents repeatedly have tried to get this suicide ruling overturned, and he said, yes, I met with the police and I decided to change it to suicide over homicide. So, yeah. Okay. So, for many obvious reasons, Ellen's parents completely denied this theory. Yes, Ellen had been struggling mentally, but there's just a lot of little things. Why would she have filled up her tank that day? And it was also during a snowstorm. Why would she have gone through the work of having to do that if she was going to take her own life thereafter? But more than that, she had this wedding planned. Yes, she was going through a rough patch and it was hard for her, but she seemed to be seeing the upside of it. She seemed to be getting through the worst of it. And it just, they simply just couldn't believe it. She had denied being suicidal, and of course people can lie, of course people can, say one thing and then not mean it, but to a psychiatrist, that's like the person that you essentially would share that information with. But I don't know, this is a lot of speculation. But also what was found during, so there were no defensive wounds found during Ellen's autopsy as per the medical examiner, but there were a lot of bruises. I want to say it was up to 10 bruises found on her body, and there were some indications that some of these stab wounds took place post-mortem, meaning after she died. So it's like, I'm sorry if this is like a little all over the place, but this is just like my pure emotion. This case is so upsetting. And the family has filed many lawsuits in efforts to get this overturned, this suicide overturned. They want to get it turned to either homicide or undetermined, because at least that leaves it open for investigation. Because this case was immediately closed. Once that ruling came back from the medical examiner, it was closed. Nothing. And it was just left that way. And the case has been transferred from court to court, from judge to judge, and for years they have had issues, but recently they did have a break. A Pennsylvania Supreme Court agreed in the middle of 2024 to review whether the Goldbergs or the Greenbergs have a legal standing to challenge the manner of death on behalf of their daughter, which I know sounds so minor, but they've been trying to do this for almost 15 years. So this alone was huge for them. Now, at the moment, Ellen's death is still considered a suicide, but another very, very big thing happened just a few months ago. Dr. Osborne, the medical examiner who conducted her autopsy, signed a sworn statement recanting his suicide ruling. He said, and I quote, "It is my professional opinion Ellen's manner of death should be designated as something other than suicide." And as part of a settlement, the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office agreed to reopen her case, and previously said civil case towards damages was paused. Now, Osborne is no longer with the Medical Examiner's Office and has no official impact on the ruling of her death, which, like I said, still remains as a suicide. But they seem to be actually having some headway for the first time in almost 15 years. Now, like I said, the family has been, and by the family I mean Josh and Sandy Greenberg, have been exhausting their resources over the last nearly 15 years trying to get justice for their daughter. They have a GoFundMe the last I checked. They have websites. They have just trying to advocate for their daughter, advocate for her her passing, because it's just unbelievable. Now, I am not going to make any speculations as to who I think did this to Ellen, because one, I don't want to get in trouble, okay? And two, I don't know, personally, I really don't have much of an opinion, like what exactly happened, because there is so many conflicting details. But what I do know, and what I feel very confidently saying, is that this was not a suicide. This was a homicide. How could she stab herself 20 times? And how? Just how? It just doesn't make any sense. And especially that it was confirmed that some of these wounds were post-mortem. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and this case makes me so upset, and if you couldn't tell. And just needed to talk about this in a very bare bones, very just small way to my, just using my platform and, my very small platform that I love and I'm appreciative for to further speak about this case because it isn't talked about enough. It is not. Nancy Grace, I know, put out a book somewhat recently about Ellen's case. I haven't read it, but yeah, she's been a huge advocate for her since the beginning. But yeah, so I've been kind of just rambling about my frustrations towards this case, and I don't want to do that for too much longer, but yeah, I'm not going to speculate on who I think did this to Ellen because I really don't know. Of course I have my suspicions, but I don't want to get in trouble. So I'm not going to say anything that is too damning. But I encourage all of you in the comments to make healthy speculations. Maybe you do think this was a suicide. I'm open to hearing other sides. But personally, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't know. I stand to listen to what anyone has to say. But at the end of the day, I want justice for this family. I want justice for Ellen. It is deeply upsetting that her parents are spending their life savings on advocating for their daughter, who was just so mistreated by the justice system. And they've dedicated the rest of their lives to doing this, to getting answers, and to getting whoever did this to her held accountable. So, but legally, it is still considered a suicide. So, please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I really am interested to hear what you have to say. I'll be looking around, seeing what y'all have to say. And yeah, that is gonna be it for me today. Like I said, sorry if this was a little bit all over the place. This case is just there's just not a lot of information, but the information that we do have is just not extremely reliable, I would say. And yeah, so I'm gonna leave it there. But yep, if there is anything I forgot or missed or anything important that you think I should have added, please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy today's video and you learned about Ellen and her case. And yeah, I will see you in my next one.